Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today doing another part of my physical media collection for movies. At some point, I will go on and do my physical media collection of shows, but for right now, I have so many movie discs and Blu-rays and all this kinds of stuff that I just want to show off because there's so much of it, so I might as well go on and do another part of this. Thank you for watching this, and I do appreciate it. And maybe at some point you'll go on and you'll find any number of these movies to be familiar titles to you or completely unknown and might be something via my recommendation, maybe something you'll check out, or also to be something that you'll find that I'm to just be a bizarre man with odd choices. So, either way, it's about that time to say, let's start this collection off and showcase all of these things, and hopefully, in the briefest manner possible, talk about all of them. For how much I would go on and like to just break down every one of these movies and overly talk about them. I think I had gotten a pretty decent amount of movies done in the last video, so I'm going to try to keep everything brief of me talking about these movies so I can go on and be able to get showcase more of them to you here in this video. The Devil. This is a Richard Gere, Topher Grace movie. We come to find that Richard Gere is an agent, but also he is a mass murderer. He strangles people. This was a piece that I'd gone on to randomly find when I had bought just a bundle of films, and this was in that bundle. And watched it, and I was like, okay, this is good enough to keep in the collection because there was some stuff that I did throw away. So that's my glowing recommendation of that. Double Dragon. I had gone on to recently watch the Game Grumps. Not only played Double Dragon, but they talked about this film specifically. So, really, if the Game Grumps did like or enjoy this movie, I can say that I liked it too. And Alyssa Milano is in that film, and god dang is she amazingly good looking. Even in short hair. Jean-Claude, Double Impact. Of course, the line of which that I remember is the, like, oh, brother, because he looks like me, oh, I'm going to change that. I'm going to up his face. Double Impact has a really good sex scene between the silk underwear twin brother and the one blonde. There's a point where the blonde ends up getting strip searched in the movie by the other girl, so I don't know. There's some scenes there. It's good enough. It's a really interesting action film. It's freaking Double Impact. It's a really good Jean-Claude film out of all the other Jean-Claude movies. Even though I like Knockoff, I think the most. Double Take. This is an interesting movie where the guys, they kind of switch their personalities. So we have Eddie Griffin that changes with Orlando Jones, and there's the whole like Schlitz malt liquor thing. There's just a lot of funny lines coming out of that movie, and it's just an interesting film that I think a lot of people probably don't know existed past a certain time period. So if you've never heard of it, check it out now. Dracula Dead and Loving It is one of the standout, I think, Dracula movies, even though it's also just a parody and it's a comedy, and of course it has Mel Brooks in it. There's a whole enema thing going on in this movie. There's the daymare. There's a point where Renfield is in the bed with all the women. He's like, wrong me, wrong my brains out. Yeah, it's there's a point where I can just go on and say I don't know if I have reviewed this movie, but I'm sure I probably talked about it enough. So it is a good film. Check it out. Dracula Untold. I had done a review of this movie, so check that review out. I won't go on and re-talk about it. I'll just say that thumbs up. It is a good enough movie for me to do that, for me to say that. Dread. I reviewed this movie, so I don't know if I've even reviewed the Judge Dredd. Maybe if that movie's interesting enough to people, Judge Dredd, I'll check that out and review it. So, the slow-mo drug, yeah, slow-mo drug. This movie ends up getting very interesting because it feels like Die Hard to me in a lot of ways. Uh, Karl Urban plays a really good Judge Dredd, and it is kind of sad how they just kind of did a one and done with this, because I think they could have gone on and done more of these. It is really interesting how the other judges go up against Dredd, and it makes for an interesting third half. I'll say that. So it's dark, it's gritty, it's really interesting. Check it out if you haven't. So I would recommend it. Ryan Gosling's Drive. This has Bryan Cranston in it. This movie is to have a lot of actually really good, surprisingly, actors in it. It has like Ron Perlman. The list probably goes on and on. This movie is very quiet though. Also, there's a lot of times where people are just staring at one another, and there's a long time of that going on in this movie. There's a lot of dead silence, a lot of dead air in this movie, so that is to be kind of not working in this movie's favor. But I think I have either reviewed this movie, or I would just say that it's a thumbs up for me anyways. So that's probably why I have it in my collection. You get a character that he's not holding a gun, he's just there to drive. And so that's kind of the crux of the whole movie. Dude, Where's My Car? This is a fun, raunchy, kind of one of those movies where the guys end up getting far too drunk and they have to kind of retrace their steps. The one interesting thing that I remember is when Jennifer Garner and this other girl goes on and they get these necklaces, and the necklaces ends up making their boobs bigger. Of course, that's the one childish thing that I have to remember from this film. Zoltan and aliens get involved in this movie. All kinds of weird, wacky crap ends up happening. And you get the, hey, what does my tattoo say? Dude, what does mine say? Sweet. Back and forth a billion times over and over again. So a lot of comedy that I think still lands to this day. I think it's still a fun film. Next up, Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber. So, if anything, I think there's just, from Dumb and Dumber, there's just one funny thing where Bob Saget goes in the bathroom and he says that there's shit all over the walls, there's shit everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's the funniest thing in this whole entire prequel movie, this one that's here. This movie, of course, is very iconic because of all the weird, goofy things that it does within it. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? Hey! Yeah, that thing. Having a car that basically looks like a dog, that's interesting. Eventually having to have a beer bottle and pee into it. Yeah, like, so a lot of I love the road trip aspect of this movie. It's a lot of fun going to Aspen. It's a fun movie. So Dumb and Dumber 2, this movie exists, and I would just say that eventually one of the characters have a daughter, and like we just have a movie about just focus too much on that. I'd impulse bought this movie because I couldn't find it anywhere, and then I watched it. I'm like, whatever, I'll just keep it. Like, eventually, come to find out, there's a Jay and Silent Bob movie that is basically the same thing as this. So, not all that creative, I feel, as far as movies are concerned. Dylan Dog. This is a Brandon Ralph film. I really wanted to go on and just support this movie, especially after Brandon Ralph. I didn't really care for him in Superman Returns, but I was like, well, maybe somewhere else he could be a really good character somewhere else. I don't really blame Brandon for anything going on with Superman. I blame other people. Uh, but I just didn't care for that film, Superman Returns. Maybe at some point I will review it because I think it probably still is trending on YouTube. Because I think a lot of people will still want to find some of the bad films and have people review it, I guess. But if anything, Dylan Dog, I think when we have the third act where we have this like huge bat monster thing, that's when the movie kind of gets off the rails. But like I think there is some interesting parts about this movie, but it's like it is a really interesting supernatural film. But when looking at like stuff like Constantine and Dylan Dog, I would say check out Constantine. um, and then I don't know. It's just uh, like I would have to rewatch Dylan Dog again to really feel if I could thumbs up that movie. Because I haven't seen it in a while, so I'll have to say that. EdTV. This is at a time where reality TV was much more important than it is now. I think when we have reality TV, it's just a game show or it's Kardashians. It's celebrity people that they just turn into a reality show. It's not just some random Joe Schmo, and they give him a show. And at some certain points, they manipulate the show to make it not exactly to be reality, like bringing in like a hot woman to give to Matthew McConaughey's character Ed. There is some at some point some interesting reveals of Ed's family. But yeah, so there is that for you. I'll say that. Elektra. Honestly, I think a lot of people don't remember this movie at all. Or maybe remember this movie after Deadpool and Wolverine. I had gone through recently and just kind of skimmed through this film just so that we can find a thumbnail for it again. And I have to say that this movie is not that bad compared to some other superhero flicks. Yeah, it feels kind of cheap compared to so many other things. Yeah, it feels that there's a bit of stretching going on. Uh, but I think that there's also some interesting villain characters. I think there's some interesting ideas here that maybe weren't all that executed well. But with Elektra, I was to go on and at least find some visual entertainment out of this movie. But if anything, I've gone on to review this movie, so you can check out my review to get my clear thoughts about the film since to have seen it recently and my opinions upon it. End of Days. This is to be an Arnold film where Arnold goes up against the devil, Bobby Boucher, and Waterboy. And it's quite interesting to see a human being face off against the devil and hopefully try to win. There is obviously some one-liners from this movie, like "You're a choir boy compared to me," and there is just some interesting stuff going on in that film. I do like it. I still and to find it quite interesting about how it all plays out, and so I'll give it a thumbs up. I'll still give it a thumbs up. Let's give it a thumber. Enemy at the Gates. I am honestly kind of interested in checking out this film again. It's a sniper movie. It's like a military sniper film. It has characters like Ron Perlman in this movie. It also has like an intimate scene going on in this film also. Interesting film. It's been a long time since really checking it out. I probably should re-look into it. Maybe I'll tag it on the bottom of this video to see if people really give a about it anymore. So that way I'll go on and I'll justify my viewing of seeing it in the future. Moving on. Epic movie. This is another parody film. Random. really this movie is to be for a very specific time period. But if you probably watch it now, you may not catch all the references. And really, it's just like after Scary Movie, they were just putting out whatever at that point. So it was just kind of like if anything, you could probably look at this and probably realize that they're trying to go back to these movies, like they're doing the whole Naked Gun thing. So, and I think they are going back into doing another Scary Movie at some point. So, why? I think it could be done the right way. I don't know. Like, I want to be optimistic. The Equalizer. This is an interesting, unique Denzel Washington film that I did watch the sequels of, but I only had this first one because the first one was actually a really good one. I thought that this character was interesting, that he has his own like OCD, or he has like to look at his watch and he has to time everything, and then he has to kill people. I thought that was really interesting. Um, to also kind of find that this movie was also to have been taken off of a show kind of made me also interested in checking out the show at some point. But I think there was also like a Queen Latifah one of this. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. So yeah, that's all that really mattered to me. Escape from New York. No one gives a about this movie. I reviewed it and no one cared. And that's okay. This is one of the more interesting Kurt Russell movies, besides maybe The Thing. I think that this movie has some interesting ideas and some interesting ways about bringing a post-apocalyptic world. And then they made a sequel that is basically the same as the original. Very little did they change, except for like making a more modern day thing where they had more CGI and did more goofy crap. So, which was Escape from LA, and I can like both of these movies. Like I can. I had only gone on to review the first one because no one cared about either one of them. So maybe at some point, if I find out that a load of people all of a sudden like Escape from New York and Escape from LA, guess what I'm doing? I'm gonna do that review. I don't know how much I could really show of this actual cover of this this DVD, because there's quite a bit of skin and stuff on it. So I'll do this. We have Euro Trip and we have Road Trip. I had gone on to very much like both of these films because like I can always just enjoy road trip movies. And Euro Trip, of course, you have the girl that is to go on and kind of take her top off and be a girl that I know from the Buffy show. So to see her kind of take her top off in this movie, yeah, it was really intriguing. To see this girl in kind of a more adult-like film. So that was interesting to check out. Yeah, let's do this. All right. So after that, we get into Event Horizon, which, interestingly enough, this movie goes on and do the whole wormhole thing where it takes the piece of paper and puts a pencil through it. And any other time that anything is going to go on and explain about wormholes, basically the thing they use is basically the exact same thing they do from Event Horizon. Lawrence Fishburne being like the final dude in this movie was really interesting. This was also like a lot of people would say that this is basically Hellraiser in space, and I can't argue that they're not wrong. So yeah, really visually interesting film. Really enjoyed it. The Evil Dead and The Evil Dead 2. So basically, the sequel is almost the exact same as the original film. Fair, fair to probably a number of people. But also, we come to find that this movie ends up getting remaked so freaking often that, like, they go back to the same well over and over and over again to just remake the same movie to where it just goes nowhere, and then they just keep remaking. They just keep remaking. There's going to be another Evil Dead coming soon, and I'm just like, hopefully this is the definitive one where they justify that they can keep doing movies. I'm just so tired of them just continuing to just remake this movie and it just goes nowhere. Like, let's finally get to something where people are going to give a about this about Evil Dead. For the love of God. Anyways, let's set this aside. Army of Darkness. This is to be a follow-up to Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, having its own solo title. It is kind of interesting because eventually you would have to know that Evil Dead movies and then this are to be tied into one another because of how different the title is. You'd also eventually find out that Ash vs. Evil Dead exists, and that's a show that has numerous seasons. And eventually you would come to find that at some point they're probably going to do more Evil Dead stuff, so there is that for you. Evil Dead and Army of Darkness are very iconic in its own right. Boomsticks and a lot of just one-liners and goofy things, groovy and all kinds of stuff just comes from those movies. And it's really fun and sloppy and fun and I would definitely recommend if people have never seen Evil Dead whatsoever. It's about that time for you to check it out. It really is. eXistenZ. This is a Jude Law video game movie that I think is to be very interesting. You come to find that people go into this virtual world and they don't quite know if they are to have gotten out of it, and they continue to ask like, hey, this is the real world, right? This is real, right? So it's one of those. Very good movie. I would recommend you checking out my review of it if you have any more questions, because eventually you'll probably get maybe those answered. Ex Machina. I and Paul bought this bad boy because a lot of people were going on and talking about, oh my god, Ex Machina. And I'm like, I don't really get it. After watching Ex Machina, I'm like, okay, it's interesting to see an AI presence that eventually can fool a number of people into eventually doing any number of things. And this Ex Machina character is to be no different. I think that there is an anime that is connected to this, and I'm quite interested to see what that is compared to this, or whatever alternate thing of this is, just to see how different it is, or to see if it's the exact same. And yeah, but if anything, I don't think that this is trending whatsoever on YouTube, so I don't think it matters. So anyways, let's move on. Expendables, I think, is popular on YouTube for some reason. Probably just the trailer. Expendables, like, these movies are very action-packed. And then we get to a point where, like, there's less and less things that we just have to care about them. So the first movie was just, there's so much just packed in this film, and they have so many people in this movie, and like, it's great that they accomplished all this. Huzzah, huzzah for them. This is a good movie. I would still probably thumbs up it to this day if I checked it out. But also, I'm probably to be thinking of this also as a franchise, and eventually realizing that, like, it just kind of gets cheaper and cheaper as we go along. Sadly enough. So Expendables 2, the only thing that I was bought in by this movie was Jean-Claude in this film, and he was being the bad guy. Other than that, I was like, I don't really care about this film. But it did go as equally action packed as the first one. It gave Bruce Willis more things to do in this movie. A lot of good comedy happens in this film besides just the action. Chuck Norris is in this movie. A lot of good things are going on in this film, to where I can continue to thumbs up even the second one. Then we start getting into the third, where it basically has us need to get like the next gen of action stars. We have to find Ronda Rousey's and Kellen Lutz's and Gwen Powell's. Yeah, Gwen Powell's in this movie. And we have to bring in Harrison Ford instead of Bruce Willis. And we have parts and bits and pieces of this that are to be interesting, but most of this movie is not memorable. I did think it was interesting that Mel Gibson was a bad guy in this movie, but yeah, like this movie, there's nothing about it that I can remember. Maybe some flashes here and there. Glenn Powell is a tech guy. Ronda Rousey is a bar bouncer or whatever she is. But yeah, there's nothing that I could really retain from this movie. And once we get into the further Expendables, we have like Megan Fox taking over, and like it just the movies end up getting so much more cheaper and cheaper. It's ridiculous. Face Off. So this movie is still to be memed to this day. I think at one point I did review this film. We end up getting this movie to just be a face swapping movie, and eventually, the bad guy goes on and finds out that the good guy has his face. So once bad guy finds out good guy has his face, then the bad guy has to get good guy's face, and then chaos ensues. This is actually such an interesting film that it's surprising that they didn't go on and remake it or sequel it or whatever. It is very surprising how they didn't go on and come up with another kind of thing of this, which I'm sure probably at some point soon they probably will. Because I would be surprised if they did. So this is a William Baldwin, Cindy Crawford film called Fair Game. And in all honesty, I had watched this such a long time ago, late at night, that I at some point wanted to revisit this movie, but I still have yet not to. Even though I have a copy of it, I just haven't gone on to revisit this movie. I find this movie to be interesting though. There is a scene where eventually Cindy and William have this kind of intimate scene on this train. I remember that at least. But yeah, this movie, I would recommend it, but I would definitely need to recheck it out to give my actual thoughts about it. So Fair, like I would recommend it, but I don't remember enough about it to really guarantee how I really feel about it. Maybe if people specifically want fair game to be reviewed, then one, comment on this video that you want this reviewed. But then also maybe at some point I'll find out if it's popular on YouTube, and then I'll use that to my benefit. Like, oh yeah, I'll review this now. Because I don't think anyone really cares. This is a Nicolas Cage movie called Family Man. I've seen this countless times. I don't know how many times I've seen it. An amazing film. We get the whole blip, or a guy getting a short amount of time to be able to be with a family because he doesn't have a family because he's rich. He's rich as fuck. And so he comes to find out what what if he would have just made a different decision? What would have happened? And that would have changed his whole entire life. And so we come to find that since this guy does a good deed, that he gets a glimpse of what his life would have been like if he would have had a family. So, very good movie. I enjoy it. I had it as one of my all-time favorite movies, and then eventually Ready Player One came in, and then that just changed everything. Let me pause this for a second. All right, I just had to take a second to just stretch it out a little bit, because I know it's like, oh, you only recording for 30 minutes. Like I tried multiple times to start this video, and also there's at one point where I recorded something for a while, and so yeah, it's just been a lot of just sitting around trying to just get some stuff recorded, so I just needed to just kind of take a minute. So, fanboys, this is again, I'm just won over by the road trip aspect of this movie. We have a bunch of characters that go on and find out that their friend is to be dealing with a illness that is going to have him die. So they try to get to Skywalker Ranch for him to be able to see Star Wars Episode 1, and so he does. So, very interesting film. Like to like to have a bunch of friends who all like one certain thing. Always is to be an interesting interesting film to see. Fantastic Four. So I'd gone on to do a review specifically of this film, so to narrow that down, this is still a really enjoyable piece. I would say that there is some interesting ways that they go about having first time for Sue being invisible, also having Reed grab the bottle, a lot of just still iconic things coming from this movie. Having Ben try to stop a guy from jumping off the bridge, Johnny going through the motocross thing, and then revealing that he was on fire, and then eventually it's all going on to face off against Doctor Doom. I can very much understand why this movie deserved a sequel, as well as also a lot of people still having a certain feeling about this film compared to so many others. And also, I'll probably have to keep this as a as one of the movies that'll probably just show on the thumbnail because it's seemingly still interesting to people upon the YouTubes. So I'll do that. Anyways, so next up, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. This movie is basically the new Fantastic Four film, even though a lot of people would argue that. It's basically the same thing. I would probably go on and say eventually, if I was to go on and see the newer Fantastic Four more, I might enjoy it, but probably I won't feel anything more than I have probably felt about this movie. Yeah, maybe somewhere down the road when I watch the newer Fantastic Four film, maybe I'll find it more than boring. So, there's that for you. So maybe with more time, maybe with other movies under its belt, maybe I'll feel differently about it. Fan Four Stick. So I like the horror element to this film. I like that it's trying to be very drastically different than all the other movies that I've seen from Fantastic Four, so I can give it that. It's trying to do something untraditional, and I can applaud this movie for doing that. This movie has a lot of weird, goofy designs with it, and it just does some interesting things. I have a whole review talking about it, so check that out. Let me pull some things out here. So we have The Fast and the Furious. This is the original movie. So, because there's so many different titles that have kind of been shifted around and whatever gotten confused, so this is the original movie. This is always going to be such a great film. You probably, I think you'd have to probably go through my review of this to cement what I felt about it, but I really like this film. I would go on and see it multiple times and enjoy it every single time. Too Fast and Too Furious, I remember seeing this movie in the theaters. I honestly didn't quite like the fact that they end up kind of partnering up Paul Walker with Tyrese in this movie. Wouldn't it have made more sense to really just have Paul Walker teamed up with anybody else but Tyrese? Because they just had to kind of invent a character for this film. But eventually, once you get into other sequels, and it makes, I guess, a lot more sense for this character to be there. But regardless, just this movie is still good. I still like it. I can still enjoy this one at that point. Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. I actually liked this movie. Went on a different beaten path, and you have a completely different character, and then eventually Vin Diesel comes in by the end of the movie to show how all the movies are connected. And like I liked that they did something different here. They showed drifting off, and once they did, eventually drifting became much more of an interesting thing to people. And so great. This movie basically went on to make drifting a thing that people gave a shit about. Fast and Furious. This is a movie where they brought all the people back together, and I'm like, great, because feasibly that's the only reason why these movies were actually interesting, was bringing all these people back together. So good that they did that. Really enjoyed that film. Fast Five. So this is when they started bringing in like Dwayne The Rock Johnsons and all these kind of extra fellas and folks and people, and the movies just got weird and goofy and just had strange ideas, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Just whatever you want to do, Fast Fives, and like, are you gonna go into space? Because you already did that. So what else are you gonna try to accomplish in all these other Fast movies that hasn't been done at this point? Any more goofy ideas that you can just throw into these movies? Because you keep going into further and further goofy things. And even when people make a joke about, like, what are they going to do at this point? Go into space? And then they do. It's like, oh, fuck. Like, so how about we don't go on and we give them ideas for them to stupidly try to accomplish, because they will. So in this 4-pack, we go on. We have the Mark Wahlberg Fear movie. We have Raising Cain. We have The Watcher and A Kiss Before Dying, which these two films on this side here I have not seen, but maybe I should at some point, because maybe there'll be something interesting. Let me know in the comments below if you have any interest in these other two films that I may have not reviewed, because I definitely have not, because I've never seen them before. I have no idea how good or indifferent they are, but maybe at some point I will check them out, because maybe they'll be worthwhile. I think I'll probably put this also as a thumbnail thing, because I'm sure Fear Mark Wahlberg movie is to probably still be popular on YouTube. Next up, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So this movie I feel is still to this day hilarious. There's some good stuff in it. The whole "Shake It Up, Baby Now," twist and shout on the model or the model the float, that was really fun. But if anything, I think the supporting characters best sold this movie besides Matthew himself. So I'll give this movie that. Even Charlie Sheen, I think, sold the movie well besides Matthew Broderick. The Fifth Element. This is a weird, goofy science fiction movie. There is to be a lot of good elements this film. Like we have the girl who's the multi-pass girl. We have Chris Tucker, who's kind of delivering a lot of good comedy here. We have Bruce Willis, who's given a lot of action, but eventually there is to be the whole like weird, goofy thing that they need to go into that one room to put all the stones and try to figure out the elements and try to save the world and like yeah that just this movie just kind of gets really all over the place and very goofy, but it is still an entertaining piece. I'll still check out to this day and probably hope that on YouTube it's probably still popular, right? I hope so. So that way it can justify my life. Stallone's First Blood. This movie is amazing. I love it. Just there's so many lines that you could take away from this movie. They drew first blood. I'll give you a war you never believe. Let it go. Yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff coming from this movie. There's a lot of really good performances. There's also the quote about the body bag. You're gonna need more body bags. Let me. Stallone. Stallone, Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. Do you think you have enough things on here? Can we figure out what this movie is? I don't know. I still can't quite figure it out. So, after the first one, the sequels kind of get murky of what exactly they are. I know there is to be the one where, like, they partner up Stallone with a girl, and that girl eventually ends up dying, and he fell in love with her, and then he puts, like, the red bandana over his head and he goes and he kicks ass. Yeah, I remember that very well. Then we get into the third one. I want to say that the third one is to be where Stallone is to have to go on and save the guy who had saved him the first film, the guy who was doing the quote about the whole body bag thing. He goes on, he finds that he's like a prisoner of war, and he goes on and saves him. I think that this is this film. If I'm wrong, then my apologies. But I'm sure any of the numbers of the ones that I said were probably right, maybe. So if I got them in the wrong order, then my bad. It's been a long time since I've seen the Rambo films. But let's move on. Rambo. Yeah, this movie exists. This movie is at such a ridiculously small budget. There's at some points where they do have some vicious, violent stuff, but once you get past the early parts of Rambo and you get into these ones, these Rambo movies would be very forgettable. I think I'd gone on to watch the one that I think happens after this one. I think there was one that happens after this one. And like it's just focused on Rambo having a daughter and or like a family member of some kind, and like they focus too much on that. And yeah, it's nowhere near anything like Rambo. Let me adjust here so I can not be in so much of the shadows. The Final Girl. This is to be basically like the last action hero if you had seen that Arnold film, with a horror twist, a slasher horror twist. I liked this idea, but there's stuff about this movie that's just very, very goofy. Like we have a mom and daughter combination, and come to find out that the mother dies, but she's still a actress in this film, and eventually the daughter goes on to see her mother in the theater just to get sucked in the film, to then try to rekindle this mother-daughter moment with this uh, this role of her mother's. Yeah, like there is some interesting stuff here. There's some funny jokes here. There is some good here, but also it's just like I wish that this could also have been more creatively done in so many ways. So it's it's a little disappointing, but oh well. It's one of those films where I feel that I could just take my brain and just put it off to the side and just watch the movie and just enjoy it for what it is, instead of what it honestly should be in my brain. Flash Gordon! Flash, we have a New York Jets quarterback that goes into outer space and fights Ming. Really interesting tale. I had gone on to also see the show as well as this movie. Ted would go on to reference this film. Any number of things would go on and basically feel like a Flash Gordon thing, without straight up just saying it. So, if you've never seen Flash Gordon, it is a really entertaining piece, very visually entertaining piece also. So you'll get that from that movie at least. Flatliners. This is a really good original film, but then they remade it, and I've never bothered to see the remake because anyone would go on to tell me to never watch the remake. So I could not be bothered. So we have these characters that all go on and they're in medical school and they decide to flatline one another. They basically end one another's lives to then have them, after a certain minute of time, revive them. And then once they revive them, they come to find that there is some lingering effects of their afterlife experience that is haunting them. And they have to figure out a way to get forgiveness from said event to have them to be not to be almost driven into craziness or driven into death by said afterlife event. So Flatliners is very technical, but it's honestly really good. I reviewed it. You can check it out. My thoughts of it. So, Fled. This is a Stephen Baldwin, Lawrence Fishburne movie. We come to find that these two guys have escaped from prison, and then it becomes like, okay, what's gonna happen after that? And the movie, I guess, is interesting enough after that, but it's been such a long time since checking this movie out. Salma Hayek is also in this movie, and she ends up being the person that finds these two guys and starts to take care of them, and eventually ends up with Lawrence Fishburne's character, because I think Stephen Baldwin ends up ending up with, I think, maybe he ends up with somebody. I don't know if I don't want to speak out of turn of who he ends up with. So I'll just leave it at that. So interesting prison escape movie. Really enjoy it. But also I easily get won over by a lot of Stephen Baldwin films. Oddly enough, Flight. Denzel Washington goes on to be a pilot of an airplane, and he lands a plane in such a unique way that people are saying that he should not be able to at all to have gone on and be able to do this. And they come to find out that he was drunk while doing it, and there's no way that he can recreate it because he did it while he was drunk. And eventually, once he has to reveal that secret, eventually he will be in a lot of trouble for it. So eventually, the real of that at the end, like, this movie's been out for a very long time. If you don't know what happens, guess what? It's gonna get revealed that he was drunk, and yeah. So it's a heartbreaking ending, but this was a really entertaining piece. I really did like it. For how it was like, okay, like they're building and building to, like, well, are they gonna reveal that this guy was to be an alcoholic, was on drugs, was this, was that? So next up, Footloose, classic film. Kevin Bacon's character goes on and teaches a guy how to dance. Supposedly Kevin Bacon had gone on to legitimately go back to high school for a certain number of days just so he could get back into the experience of being in high school. So that's a legit story because Kevin Bacon confirmed that story. There is such good music in this that it can't be ignored. This movie has such a good soundtrack. So, and I know that they did remake this, and then they did all the popping and locking and all the kind of modern dance and whatever. But like, I liked this film. I think it was a lot better written. The remake just copies and pastes what the original tried to do, and it didn't come off as anywhere near as good. It just felt like a copy. Forrest Gump. So we have a character who, if I can get the glare off this bad boy, we have a character that goes on and does like a Renaissance man. He basically accomplishes everything that can go on during a certain time period of or a certain time period. Like getting every single possible award that he could ever really get. Going into the military, going into being a football player, going on and eventually being in the shrimp business, everything in between, just doing all these really miraculous things. And then I'm like, I was running. Yeah. So, interesting film, but I don't think it can be replicated. I don't think if we ended up doing a sequel to this film, I do not think that people go on and check the sequel out. I still think it's surprising even to this day that people even care about this first film, considering it's a real just time capsule of a film. But hey, if people are to still be interested in, and of course Forrest Gump, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to review it. Fracture. This is we have another Ryan Gosling film here, Anthony Hopkins. This is actually a really just smart film. We come to find that Anthony Hopkins is to try to kill his wife and get away with it, and Ryan Gosling is to think that this murder case is to be open and shut, but slowly but surely we have Anthony Hopkins that starts to reveal this and that and these things, and so it ends up getting to the point where the whole entire case ends up getting reversed and Anthony ends up getting away with it. And then within the story, Ryan's character starts to eventually figure out how Anthony Hopkins did it, and then by the end of the movie, once Anthony Hopkins' wife dies, there's a whole completely different case, and they can do the whole retrial, and yeah, so very fascinating film, a very smart film, I feel. Let's get into Forsaken. This, if you look at shows like Supernatural and then you also look at this, it's a copy and paste. Uh, they look the exact freaking same. This is to be another vampire movie that I feel is really interesting. It's a road trip movie. I think I at some point reviewed this movie, so check that out. Definitely a thumbs up film. Very talk about it very briefly because I have so many other things to talk about and review. Let's just pick these two movies that are right here. Fight Club. I had seen this I don't know how many times, probably more than 50. There is so many one-liners that comes off from this movie. It's such a great film. Hit me as hard as you can. The things you own end up owning you. Countless things that I can go on and just parrot and replicate and whatever. I've gone on to review this movie in the past. You can check that out if you want to. But I'm going to say that this is one of my top 5 movies of all time. So definitely check it out if you never have. I had the Blu-ray thing of it. I probably should have like every freaking variation of this movie for how good it is and how much I just want every variation of it. I like this movie because it basically tells people to let go and have more freedom, and eventually then goes on and does the whole Project Mayhem thing, and things just start to get lost in the shuffle there. But I love this movie. It's great. We have a Channing Tatum film that has Terrence Howard in it called Fighting. This very much reminded me of Fight Club, and this movie we have Channing Tatum that just goes through these locations and fights people and gets money and basically ends up kind of fighting this one fight that seems far-fetched that he's going to be able to win at the end of it. And so really that's all I have left to say about that. Man, out of the time that I spent with just doing one section here. Friday the 13th. This is a huge collection of stuff. This is from Friday the 13th Uncut to Jason Takes Manhattan. That's everything that is here from this collection. I had gone on to... Oh, there's also... I have other ones here. I'll get to those in a second. So I would say that there are parts of me that when I want to go on and when I want to watch Friday the 13th, there's really, like, I want to skip certain numbers of these and I only want to watch certain numbers of them. I don't want to go through the whole entire franchise. So that'll say that not every single one of these are to be good films. I would probably go on and I would probably watch the very first Friday the 13th, and then I would skip to probably... I'd probably skip to probably 5, and then I'd probably like try to see after 5 like what all the other movies entail after that. Like, I love Jason Takes Manhattan. That's a really visually entertaining movie. So yeah, so I would recommend some of these movies, but not all of them. So give or take, eventually realizing that it's been a long time since watching all of them. Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. I didn't know I had Jason Goes to Hell, so that's good that I have this, because I didn't think I had it. I think Jason Goes to Hell was really effing expensive to try to get at some point. So I don't feel that this movie is probably to be worth it to try to get as a copy of it, but regardless, like, I now have 2 different copies of Jason X because of this bullshit. Like, that's probably why I didn't go on and try to get this, because feasibly I was like, ah, man, like, I have to get another thing of Jason X. I don't want to do that. But now I have 2 copies of Jason X. So, Jason Goes to Hell is like a really interesting, just way different Jason movie than all the others, and that's what makes it really interesting. Jason X, it's basically Jason in space, and there's some cool ideas of what they do with skin and nudity in this movie, as well as also bringing us back to the classic bits of Camp Crystal Lake and fun stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with Jason X. It's just really fun. Oh, there was also in the later Friday the 13th films, I think the one that also sticks out to me is the one where you have the psychic girl and she goes up against Jason. Like, I think that was just like a fun, interesting idea for the later movies. So if anything, I would also recommend checking that movie out. Just because I think that's a kind of cool idea, like a psychic powered character against Jason. That was kind of fun. Freddy versus Jason. I would see this movie countless times. I enjoy this movie. This movie has a lot of amazing nudity, and that's why I love it. Just a lot of skin in this one. Immediately, we have the one girl that goes on and goes skinny dipping and just throws her top off and reveals herself. I'm like, yeah. Good way to start off this film. Here's the thing. I had a guy that was to be in high school with me, and he had a portable DVD player, and he was watching this movie during school. And the teacher went on and he walked by and he noticed that this was playing, and I was trying as much as well, like, hey man, this isn't me, this is mine, this is his. And the teacher was to go on and quickly notice it, and then he walked off and he's like, hey, I'm gonna pretend that I didn't see any of this. That teacher was freaking awesome. So plus also, like, at the time I was already like an adult anyways by that point, because I was kind of past the age range of like, well, hey, I'm already 18 and whatever, while I was kind of graduating from high school. Like, I think I was going from 18 to 19 or something like that. It was some kind of age when I was in high school. So feasibly, like, for me, I'm just like, well, hey, like, I'm watching technically adult movie, but it's an environment that isn't for adults, so it is what it is. Whatever. But that's my story. Oh, also, for the Dumb and Dumber thing, that same guy quoted the whole like Bob Saget to me, shit over the walls and shit, and that's what I go on and I remember from that, and not just the movie. Just him telling me that about that whole scene. I'm like, okay, I'll check that out just because he said that. So, Frozen. This is a really interesting film where people were stuck on a ski lift and they're trying to figure out a way to just get out of it. We have one guy that goes on and he jumps and he breaks his legs, and then dogs surround him and kill him. We have another guy who goes on and he uses the railing or the wiring, and he tries to use his hands to climb off of it, and then he jumps down, and then he ends up getting eaten by dogs, and then so there's a fear of people getting frostbite, and this is actually surprisingly really interesting film. If people have never checked it out, I feel that you need to, and I'll probably tag this video of this thing, reminding people that it exists, hoping that people will give a shit about it, so they'll go on and they'll let me know that that I should review it at some point. From Paris with Love. This is a John Travolta film, a very good action-packed film that kind of does its twists and turns to surprise you. And if you've never seen From Paris with Love, it's actually surprisingly an enjoyable film. And it's kind of interesting when John Travolta was saying, like, yeah, it's surprising that I'm doing this kind of action film in the later half of my career because of how much entails with it. But surprisingly, yeah, like really good movie, surprisingly. Freaks of Nature. This I think was kind of briefly trending on YouTube for a little bit. This is like the kitchen sink of supernatural stuff. We have zombies, we have vampires, we have not where we zombies, werewolves, and then the common human beings all kind of living together, coexisting, and eventually we'll come to find out that one of the characters ends up becoming a werewolf, and so the further and further this movie goes along, we also have like aliens that arrive on planet Earth, all kinds of like, again, just the kitchen sink of horror and supernatural. Everything all occurs here, and creates for just a very fun, interesting film that just goes into chaos, and it's just a fun movie, and I liked it. I really did. So Fred Claus. This is a Vince Vaughn movie that eventually that has Fred Claus is basically Santa Claus's brother, and they have at one point where Fred is to help out Santa, and further we go along in the story, and Vince Vaughn, or Fred's character, is to try to really create problems for Santa. And this is a really funny, really fun film. I enjoy it. Like, eventually, if I haven't seen all the other Christmas films, eventually I'll pop into Fred Claus and I'll just check it out and see how interesting it still is, or to see if it's still worth watching. So we have Frailty here. This is another Matthew McConaughey movie that also we have this is a Bill Paxton movie. This movie is interesting for how it ends, where eventually we come to find that these characters have like this certain sight for these people to know if they're a good man or not, and they kind of do away with the evil ones. They see demons in people and they try to kill them and take them out. Further and further that this movie goes on, it's just kind of fairly interesting to see how it all plays out. So I'll say that about this film. Freddy Got Fingered. This is the next film, Tom Green. There is just some wild just jokes in here that bizarrely land. Like, Daddy, would you like some sausages? And the weird, like, hooves thing. My hooves, my hooves. Yeah. This is such a weird movie that just bizarrely is just so funny. But yeah, like, how they went on to just make this movie, and people are still talking about it to this day. I'm talking about it to this day. It's just beyond me for how just bizarre it is, and how I even have a copy of this movie for, again, just how weird it is. So Friends with benefits. So, in all honesty, this movie is to go on and be fairly interesting to me. About, like, it's not just a movie about sex. The only thing that does kind of ruin this for me is I had gone on to see this with a girlfriend. So if anything, whenever I'm to kind of think about this movie, I'm to probably think about that relationship. So that's probably why I don't really check this movie out that much, but I do have it. Because I did like it. I did find something to enjoy about this movie. That eventually it's all about them going from being friends with benefits to eventually like, well, hey, can I date you by the end of the movie? And so that's why I liked it. I liked the characters. Yeah, so I liked the film. I did like the film, even though, again, it reminds me of a past relationship, so that kind of sucks. Fright Night! The original Fright Night, because there's the remake of the Fright Night. There is to be a number of Fright Night things where you don't know what it is, that it's titled something differently, and yeah, there's so many different things. So, Fright Night, this is a very classic film that, of course, has, God, what is his name? Brewster. Brewster goes on to have a neighbor, which he'll come to find is a vampire, and he's basically bedding women and killing them. Brewster will then go on to try to seek out his famous vampire hunter television host and hope that he'll go on and help him. Vincent Price, I think is his name. So this movie is just so interesting in the way of what it does in this film that it's hard to not say that this movie is not a freaking banger, that this movie is not just a great film that people should check out if they've never heard of it. So going into the original sequel film, we kind of throw the kitchen sink in here. We bring in the sequel, we bring in like werewolves and almost zombie-like characters in the sequel. Instead of it being a man in the sequel, we end up having it being a woman, and Brewster ends up kind of finding this woman attractive, and so on and so forth. So they kind of flip things for the sequel, and I did really go on and I did really enjoy the sequel movie. I think they did replace the girlfriend with another girl, and so that's how they did the sequel. So this is the Fright Night remake with Colin Farrell. In its own right, I think there is something interesting about this remake, Fright Night. They go on and they have Colin Farrell, who works on the Vegas Strip at night doing construction. So that's how he gets around of being a vampire and working at night. We eventually have the guy who's like McLovin from the Superbad. He ends up playing the evil character, and he goes on to try to convince the Brewster Esch-like character, like, hey, these guys are evil, so on and so yeah. So this movie is to be rather entertaining. I really enjoyed this variation of it. I liked how they incorporated the certain people from the original Fright Night into this one. So I can like the remake and the original. Fright Night 2. So this is basically a copy and paste of the original Fright Night 2. And it doesn't have the exact same actor from the remake in this one. I would say this movie is at such a low budget that it's not as good There's some fun parts about this movie, but it's like it really is a hard sell because of its budget. So it's kind of just disappointing. But I have to rewatch it again to get my clear consensus because it's nowhere near as similar as the other Fight Night 2. So now we have a Miramax multi-feature Dust From Dusk Till Dawn. I had seen at least From Dusk Till Dawn 2 on here, but I don't think I ever saw the third one. I want to say that I probably had seen the third one. And then there's also a Full Tilt Boogie, whatever that is. On here, I have no idea what that is. So don't know why all this stuff is on here, but eventually, yeah, I would be tempted to check all these movies out. I should go on and eventually at some point review From Dusk Till Dawn on this channel, because I had seen also the early stages of the show, so I probably should get on that at some point to review that on the channel. For some reason on this case, somebody wrote their name on it. Chevy Chase, Funny Farm. Love this movie. It's so funny. Just these two characters going on and they're trying to write a book and eventually come to find that the wife ends up writing a book and the book ends up becoming so like very like, oh man, this is a really successful thing and it's all about a squirrel. Just a lot of fun to be had with this movie. Eventually the couple try to like sell their house and they try to use the town to like, hey, if you just become really good, we'll give you this this payday for you going on and helping us out. Fun with Dick and Jane. This is a very fun Jim Carrey movie where the couple decides that they're just going to be robbing a bunch of banks so that way they can keep their house afloat. Funny movie at times, but also like after they continue to just start robbing all these banks, like it just kind of feels like the movie has nowhere to go. So eventually by the end of the movie, they end up seeing the Alec Baldwin character and figuring out a way to like con him out of money, and yeah, so oh, I just picked the same film. This is a movie called Future Sport, and surprisingly, after I was to go on and watch it, I actually did like it. It kind of reminded me of the Rollerball movie. So it surprisingly is a good film, or good enough film, that I did want to keep the collection of it because I think this is again one of those where I got it in a random bundle, and so I'm like, okay, I guess I have to just convince myself to watch this movie, and so I did, and I actually did come off with a positive reaction to this movie. Galaxy Quest, Never Give Up, Never Surrender. Basically a ripoff of Star Trek, basically making fun of Star Trek, kind of a parody of Star Trek. You have this TV cast that ends up getting put into a real scenario where they're to be told that they need their help, that these aliens had gone on to recreate their ship, and so these TV show people decide to go on and make their way onto the ship thinking that this is just a audition for yet another show, and then they come to find out the scenarios to all be real, and so these actors have to legit be fearing for their lives and realize that they are needing to really figure out how to just strategically figure out ways to get through all of these things. And Justin Long is also in that movie. So, anyways, the Gerard Butler movie Gamer. Michael C. Hall is also in this film. John Leguizamo. This is to probably be for a lot of people to be similar to the Glenn Powell recent film, The Running Man, or Arnold Schwarzenegger Running Man. We come to find that there's to be these kind of life sentence guys that go on and they are to be put through these life and death scenarios to eventually hopefully win their freedom after a certain number of gaming sessions. And eventually Gerard Butler's character is to be the one character that probably should not be getting his freedom because of the secrets that he has. And eventually the movie builds and builds to that. Bit of nudity, bit of interesting things. The worst thing about that film is where we have at one point where one of the players that plays as this girl is a really fat slob of a character, and like that's the point where the movie gets kind of gross. So that is what it is. Gattaca. This is another Ethan Hawke, Jude Law film. Or this is another. Let me say that again. This is another Jude Law film. So Ethan Hawke goes on to eventually try to swim more so than his brother, and he goes on to complete this task, and his brother doesn't understand how he goes on and does it. It's like, well, yeah, because I never planned to do the whole swim back. He only did the one swim, and that's all he had energy for. And so once the brother figures that out, so the whole story is that Jude Law is this astronaut, and Ethan Hawke's character is trying to get his seat in the space shuttle. So Ethan Hawke's character is trying to pretend that he's Jude Law's character, which is very weird. How can you be confused between the two of them? But somehow they do end up getting confused. So Ethan Hawke goes on to eventually fool all these people to thinking that he is Jude Law's character, and makes for a really interesting film. The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. I would go on to find that these old classic films have a lot of good comedy in them, and I probably should go on and recheck out this movie. I think I had gone on to Bizarrely at one point late at night to have seen this film, but I'm not quite sure if I did. So feasibly, I had collected this movie and hoped that at some point I'd recheck it out, but I didn't. So if I'm wrong about this film and it's not the film that I think it is, oh well, like I'll just have another movie in my collection. No loss there. Ghostbusters 1 and 2. I have also the DVD of that, because there's just certain features and stuff like that I've found that were still in this that aren't in this, so I just had to keep them anyways. Ghostbusters 1 and 2, like I talk way too much about this. If anything, if you see my reviews, you'll know that's for sure. This is a childhood favorite of mine for the longest time. I loved these first two movies, even though the second one isn't held in high regard. I don't care. I liked both the first two movies. And when eventually there was always the teasing of there being a possibility that there was going to be a possible another movie coming somewhere down the pipeline, I was so hopeful about it. And then everything that ended up coming after that was just like, why does any of this exist? uh, Sadly enough, yeah, we had the afterlives, and we had the thing that came after that, Frozen Empire. I'm like, whatever. Like, I can just try to be positive about those things, but also, like, I am to just find them just nowhere as good as even the second movie, in my opinion, for how high I hold those things in regard. Yeah, to eventually, I've talked about them. I'm not going to talk about them again here. I'm not going to waste my breath. The all-female Ghostbusters, or Ghostbusters Answer the Call. This movie, I would say, is very action packed. It's funny, I guess. So I guess I reviewed it. You can check out my review. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. This is a fun kind of like Scrooge movie where Matthew McConaughey's character is this guy who like dumps all these women in this group chat because he's lazy. And then he makes his way to his brother's wedding, and he finds this like old flame of his. So eventually they go through the whole like he'll be visited by 3 spirits, and all these spirits are going on, and eventually convincing him to become a better person. And eventually the way this plays out is the way it plays out. Really fun. I really like that movie. It's a lot of fun. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. I do also have the original Ghost Rider DVD. I think it's in my collection of discs, so I do have that one and this one. This sequel, there is some moments where I do like what they did, but the story overall is just like they could have. There is, I think, so many things that they could have gone on and done with Ghost Rider. Why do this? Why exactly do this? But oh well, like there are so many different things that are to be comic books that have Ghost Rider in them. There is so many times where Ghost Rider is to be briefly used in animated pieces, so pick and choose your Ghost Rider at this point. Hopefully at some point they will reboot Ghost Rider, and we can maybe enjoy that a lot freaking better than what was the Nick Cage movies. G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra. I didn't think I had this movie, but I guess I do. Surprisingly. And this is a 2-disc copy edition. So, for some reason I do have this movie. I didn't think I ever did. That's good, because I now don't have to go on and need to get a copy of it. So there's not really much to write home about for this movie, so I'll just leave it at that. Maybe at some point I'll rewatch this movie and find something profound about it, but that day won't be today. Sticky. Girl Next Door. This is a really interesting movie where we come to find that there is to be an adult star that is living next door to a guy, and once this guy starts to meet with this girl, and like sparks are flying, eventually the girl starts to figure out that the guy knows that she's a adult star, and so they start talking it out, and eventually by the end of the movie they come to make a film about basically safe sex, but they're using adult stars, and they get very creative and Timothy Olyphant is also in this movie, and he's really an interesting, fun character in this film. Uh, there is a point where in this movie they talk about moral fiber or moral high fiber or whatever, and there's a point where I had this consistent joke um, about high fiving or or fiber high or some goofy joke where like I would uh talk about fiber high fives or something. I don't know. I don't know what that joke used to be. Uh oh, I'd say high in fiver. That's what I would say. Because I would like high five, moral high five. That's a stupid joke. But that's where that came from. High in fiber. Yeah, that joke sounds really dumb when thinking about it now. The Russell Crowe Gladiator movie. Yeah, this is a film that I reviewed at one point once. You can see the review and hear me talk about this. Uh, there's so many good lines about this movie. Husband of the murdered wife, father of Murray's son, and I will have my vengeance in this life and the next. That's a really good line. I had gone to also see the later Gladiator, and I'm like, what the heck was that? I didn't really care for it. Like, yeah, that it exists, but I'll never go on and ever see it again. Uh, and it's kind of funny how Russell Crowe got to the point where it's like, man, everybody's asking me so much about this Gladiator movie, and I think I've done so much promotion of it that I think I should be getting paid for every time I'm to talk about it. It's like, well, yeah, like it kind of gets annoying because everybody's hoping that there's going to be a sequel to some big movie, and yeah, when there is, that's great and all, but like it sucks when the previous actor is to give you an update about what's going on, and then eventually they don't even get involved in the newer film. So that kind of sucks. Anyways, Godzilla. I have no idea which version this is. No idea. I think this is the Bryan Cranston Godzilla. People can correct me in the comments below. Uh, I'm trying to figure out what year it is. Not seeing anything on here. It's probably the Bryan Cranston one. So if I'm wrong about that, uh, this was an interesting story about a family that was kind of to a family that was also kind of destroyed by a monster. And the later and later that this movie eventually goes, like the darker it gets and the less that you can see. So this movie eventually becomes pointless and it becomes garbage. So that's my feeling of that movie. It's true. I hate to say it, but it's true. Uh, the Golden Child. This still cracks me up to this day. You go on, you have the guy who has to not spill the water, and he's going through all of these things, trying to keep his balance, trying to go on and get to the knife. I like the knife, please. And once he gets the knife and he drinks the water, he's like, "Turn on some goddamn lights." Just hilarious. Goofy funch. Still. Grandma's Boy. There's a lot of fun jokes coming out of this. There's a lot of weed stoner jokes. There is to be the guy who dresses like he's in the Matrix and he sounds like a robot. Uh, it's interesting the characters that they use in this movie, and it's a movie that has become to have a following. Uh, Very interesting video game movie, also. So there's that for you. At some point, I'll probably go on and I'll probably wrap this up at a certain point. Uh, maybe I will get done with this section and then I'll just call it a video. So if this takes like 2 hours to get done this whole section, I'm sorry. I'm gonna try as much as possible to get less into detail. So there's that for you. Torino. Uh, there are so many kind of later Clint Eastwood movies that does stick out, but this one is definitely one of those. Gran Torino is an interesting movie where we have Clint's character that meets up with this family, and eventually there's a lot of fun pronouncing of these characters, and Clint goes on and gets all of this like food brought to his home, and he's like, what the heck is all this food? And so he starts to go on and starts eating all of it, and he's like, oh, okay, all right. So uh eventually by the end of this, we have Clint that has this boy that he gets partnered up with doing all these like kind of tasks for all of the neighborhood. And then eventually by the end of the movie, Clint ends up confronting all these guys, and he ends up getting killed, but then the guys who end up killing him get arrested afterwards, because all of the neighbors are to be very upset that this guy had gotten killed. So spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Gran Torino. It's been a while since. Either way, check this movie out because it's amazing. I love the blending of cultures in the movie, and it's just a fun film. It's Clint Eastwood just giving a lot of good comedy. The Green Hornet. The only problem that I really have with this movie is it's basically a 3D movie that if you're not watching it in 3D, it kind of suffers because of that. Because it kind of was made to be a 3D film. I don't know if this movie is to really hold up at all. I'd have to rewatch it and see if this is a good movie or not. I would honestly be tempted to actually watch the original Green Hornet show and get the feeling about that, because I think I've seen episodes here and there of it, but I haven't really sat down and really got out of my way to really focus on it. So Cameron Diaz being involved in this movie, whatever. This movie has some points to it, but also it's just it doesn't have a good villain. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it again to just get my clear feelings upon it. Green Lantern extended cut. So, for how many of the other later superhero movies came and went, I feel I go on and I further would look at this specific movie and like it more and more. Um, yeah, there is some goofy ideas for the villains. There is a lot of the movie where it's just kind of building up the origin of the character to where it goes nowhere. But I can like parts about this movie. It'll be interesting to see eventually later down the line when they have the Lantern show, and I can hope to be optimistic about that. I hope that's gonna be good, because then I will at least have a Green Lantern thing that I can be happy about, because I've seen so many Green Lantern things. Hence, Green Lantern, First Light. This is another just kind of origin movie of this character, and eventually where they go within this movie. It's been a very long time since seeing it, but like I did really like this movie, and then whenever there was going to be anything of a Green Lantern animated thing, I'm like, I'm checking it out because it's going to be a really good story. And so this movie didn't disappoint, and neither did uh, Emerald Knight, which I feel is kind of a sequel to that one, where we come to find that they end up bringing up a lot of different lanterns in this specific movie to tell their separate story, as well as also there is a being that is like caught in the sun, and they have to figure out a way to defeat it, or something along those lines. From my memory of this, uh, they bring up this. I think in this one they bring up this like young lantern girl, and Hal is kind of coaching her, and yeah. So this story is really good, as well as also I'm tempted to go on and check out these animated Green Lantern things, as well as also getting back into the animated movie superhero stuff, because some of these movies are actually pretty good, even though they probably aren't to be at all trending on YouTube. But I just did Hellboy Sword of Storms, and that was actually popular on YouTube. So maybe there's a tide changing. Maybe I can go on and justify checking out these things, and people will actually want to actually watch them, I hope. Green Room. I had seen this movie, and it was so interesting to see Patrick Stewart as a bad guy. We come to find that this band ends up performing at this place, and then they find out that someone ends up getting killed, and so they end up getting locked into a room, and Patrick Stewart is convincing them to get out of the room, and they're not getting out of the room. So uh it's all the buildup of like, okay, what's going to happen, how are these guys going to escape, and it just makes for an interesting film. But it's okay, I'll give it that. Liam Neeson's the Gray. uh this is actually surprisingly a really interesting film, and I think a lot of people give it crap, but I like it. I actually surprisingly like it a lot more than a lot of the other Liam Neeson films. We'll give it that, at least. Gross Point Blank. I absolutely love this movie. We come to find that a hitman is coming back to his high school reunion to eventually have people try to shoot at him. And this is such a fun movie where eventually Cusack is revealed to Minnie Driver's character that he's a hitman. Dan Aykroyd is also in this movie, I believe. I think I've done a review of this film, so check that out, I guess. Or just check out this movie instead of checking out what I have to say about it. Groundhog Day. We have a guy that goes through this repeating day over and over again, and it's Groundhog's Day, and he has to go on and try to stop the groundhog Phil from seeing a shadow. This is a very interesting idea that eventually I would see in other movies and projects and things, and I always kind of like it. There's a Frank Grillo film called Boss Level, where that's a repeating day through an action themed thing, and that it's honestly be so interesting about how they pulled that all off, because I'm like, man, that seems like a very hard idea to try to execute, but somehow they accomplished doing so. So I'm honestly very fascinated to see how they did that, the whole boss level repeating day thing. It's very easy to probably accomplish doing this scene if you kind of do the same exact scene 30 different times in 30 different ways. Anyways, so, and just tell your actor, okay, this time around, do it more sad, do it more confused, do it more this. This is a movie called Guardians. Right around the time that Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they did this movie. So I was clickbaited into checking this out also. It's kind of an interesting group, kind of shoved all together, and I think that this is a decent movie. Like, I would go on, and if people were to ask me to review this, I would check it out. Maybe at some point it may actually be some kind of something on YouTube, so maybe I'll take the time to check that out. Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the first movie. Like, this is to be a movie that is so very much enjoyable. It has so many goofy characters that just work bizarrely well together, and just a great fun movie that uses music as a positive, as a like, ooh, I'm really liking this music, instead of just having it as elevator or background noise. That doesn't make sense to the film whatsoever. Then we get Volume 3, or Volume 2. I don't have Volume 3. I haven't even reviewed Volume 3 on this channel. Maybe at some point I will. If people nudge me enough, or tell me to do it, then I'll do it. This movie is just less than fun than the first, because we end up having the focus being that that Star-Lord has to find his daddy, and like there's a really long stretching of Star-Lord and Dad, and really that's all the movie really is. Hackers. Angelina Jolie. Like, this is I liked when they would go on to want to figure out the passcodes of certain things, where like they would come to say that, like, okay, like normal passcode things would be like God or something like that. And I found that kind of interesting in the beginning of this, and eventually we have like Zero Cool, and this movie is to be fairly interesting. If people want me to go on and review Hackers at some point, I think I may also go on and just toss this on the thumbnail. Because who knows, maybe people will want me to review Hackers at some point. It's been such a long time. I think Matthew Lillard is also in that movie. Uh-oh. Better get Mako. This is the Rob Zombie Halloween, and I know a lot of people have their certain feelings on this. I probably should have the other Halloweens, but this is the only one it seems that I have. I've gone on to review Halloween. I don't know if I've reviewed any of the others. I would honestly like to review. Well, I've reviewed some of the Halloween films, so I've reviewed some of them more than just the first one. I've reviewed the first one, and then I've reviewed the later ones. That sucked. Well, not all of them, but most of them sucked. I would be interested to go on and finally watch this movie and get my feelings upon it, because, like, I have seen bits and pieces of it, not its entirety, and I think there's some interesting things about this movie that I can come off it and do like, but I have to see this movie as a whole, because I only seen bits and pieces of it, oddly enough, instead of seeing the whole thing. Hanakaka! Let me adjust myself a little bit here. Hanakaka. So, this is a superhero Will Smith film that I think is really interesting. We have a character that doesn't remember who he is, that is to just call himself Hancock because someone had said, hey, sign your John Hancock, and he thought it was his name. Eventually, Will Smith's character will find out Charlize Theron's character exists, and then there'll be a reveal that Charlize Theron will have the same power as Will, and then, like, she will think that Will know all these things, which he won't, and yeah, like, more and more the movie ends up getting interesting, and we're to hope that there's going to be a sequel where we'll eventually find that Will is going to remember everything. I think there's always a tease that there is going to at some point be a sequel to this movie, but there never will. There is some goofy ideas that are going on with this movie. I guess not goofy enough to justify a sequel. The Hangover. kind of a goofy idea. We have a bunch of guys that like they end up getting so drunk and they find out that they have lost their friend and during like a bachelorette party or bachelor party. And the further and further they go along in the story, like the more just horrific things that they find out about the night of them drinking. So it's kind of funny that this movie eventually goes on to have sequels, multiple sequels, because yeah, you would think after that one crazy night that they were never to go on and do it again, but they end up doing it multiple times. Hangover Part 2 and Hangover Part 3. What do I remember about the sequels? I don't remember them whatsoever. So that tells you a lot about those sequels. I'd have to rewatch them to really remember anything about them. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunter. I only watched this because Jeremy Renner was in this film. I really want to say like a lot of positive about this movie. I feel if I could rewatch it, I would probably like this movie. Maybe. I would like to think that that's the case, but I don't know. I am quite interested to see if anybody would want me to go on and review this specific film because, yeah, I would give it a shot to just see if it's worthwhile or if it's just garbage. Because I'm just unsure. So I don't know. I'll have to see if that's worthwhile. Happy Death Day. This is another repeating day, and it's done from a horror angle. I kind of like this idea. I wish that a lot more movies would have tried to do this idea, because I think it's kind of fun. Eventually, you'll come to find that the main character, the further they repeat the day, they realize that they're really hurting their body going through all this. And so it's like they have to figure out who the killer is by the end of it, so that way they can stop this whole repeating day. And I liked this first movie, and when they eventually did a sequel to it, I'm like, what a waste of time is that? They end up going through some guy, and he's repeating the day, and the sequel was nowhere as good as this one, if this one was any good. And so, yeah, that's what I felt about Happy Death Day. Happy Gilmore! They made a sequel out of this bad boy finally. It took them forever. I never saw the sequel, but at least they made a sequel out of it. I honestly think that the sequel just has way too much cameos and way too many celebrities, and I don't think that it's... I want to say that like, I don't think I'm ever going to have an interest in seeing the sequel of this. But if people were to go on and say that the sequel is great, if people were to talk up the sequel, then I would be enticed to check it out, but I have no interest in seeing the sequel. A lot of people could say that probably the sequel is nowhere as good as the original, and that could give me all the more reason to not really care about the sequel. So I have not seen the sequel yet. I don't really care to. But if people still find the sequel to be popular on YouTube, then maybe I'll check it out. I have no idea. I'm just kind of going on just suspicions. So, we have a bunch of Jean-Claude movies here. We have Hard Target, Time Cop, Street Fighter, The Quest. So, I had basically talked about The Quest while reviewing Bloodsport, because The Quest and Bloodsport are basically the same movie. Hard Target is basically a film that has a lot of rich guys try to go after a homeless man or an ex-military guy and try to hunt them down and kill them. It's like the Dangerous Game. Time Cop is an interesting, like, time travel film where uh where Jean-Claude's character is to go back in time to help out his prior self, and uh eventually kind of change things from the past from happening. So that's in a nutshell what Time Cop freaking is. I don't know. There isn't much I could really try to really adjust from that. I think at some point he's to try to save his wife from dying. I think is one of the things that he tries to do. And Street Fighter, of course, is Street Fighter. It's uh Jean Claude's character against the bad guy. I don't remember the bad guy's name. Um, um, yeah, I can't think. Heist. Yeah, that name's gonna bother me. Heist. This is actually a decent film that mostly focuses on Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character. I wish they would have used Dave Bautista a lot more in this film, or also Robert De Niro in this movie. Uh, we come to find this is a movie where it's on a bus, and that's the big focus. Uh, yeah, kind of drawing a blank from this movie. So if anything, I'll just leave it at that. Because I'm also getting very tired, and when I'm kind of getting tired, I'm just kind of like, bah. Anyways, so Hellboy. This is a big thing for seemingly people. People like Hellboy on YouTube. I don't know why, but they do. Well, maybe not the first Hellboy, but they definitely like this sequel movie. Um, the Golden Army, still to this day, still a trending thing. So I like Hellboy. I love supernatural elements. I like this whole idea. So yeah, I will definitely thumbs up Hellboy for sure. Golden Army, an interesting, fun movie. I think there's a lot more comedy in this sequel than there is in the original Hellboy movie, so I'll give that praise. Uh, it's so sad that there will probably never be a third Hellboy movie, and Ron Perlman is to go on and say that he'd be willing to still at his certain age that he is right now, that he would still be willing to do another third Hellboy movie, because he absolutely loves this character, and how Ron Perlman is to go and say that there should have been a third Hellboy movie, but there probably will never be. Uh, but then there's also so many Hellboy movies out there now that it's like, well, and also there's the Sword of Storms that is still pretty popular. But if anything, I'm gonna have to put this as a thumbnail, because yeah, people still to this day they love them some Golden Army. Surprisingly, you would think out of these two movies, you would think that this one would be the popular one on YouTube, right? You would think. No, it's this one. It's this one. Why this one? Like, do people really like this movie? Like, I'm just so curious of why this one. I'm just fascinated by that. Like, I think that this movie is great. And don't get me wrong about the Golden Army. Like, I don't hate the Golden Army, but I just don't get why it's popular over the original. I just don't quite understand or grasp that. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't know. But maybe people love that Golden Army more so than any of the others. So I might have to do a little bit of Yeah. Hellraiser. Hellraiser. Uh, I had to go through and thumb through this movie back again uh, to get another thumbnail because eventually at some point I'm gonna have to adjust the thumbnails in this because I just recently got the actual box, the thing, the Pandora's box thing. So at some point I'll go through all these Hellraiser movies if they were all actually popular on YouTube, and I will watch them. I'll check them out. I have the Pandora's box, so I'll have them in a thumbnail hopefully. Uh, I really very much like Hellraiser. It's an interesting idea. Uh, the ways in which that they go about just taking people out in each movie is just fascinating to watch. So yeah, I'll go on and I'll like. Plus, also in that very first Hellraiser movie, it sets up right away how gory and gruesome this franchise is going to be. So I'm like, man, yeah. Like there's this one guy with just his entire body is just like a meat sack basically, and like his entire body is just skinless and it's just ugh. But if anything, Hellraiser, Hellbound, or Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Eventually, after the sequel, I just kind of don't quite remember um, all these after that. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, Hellraiser 4, Bloodline, Hellraiser 5, Inferno, Hellraiser, Hellseeker. All on one combo here. Because at one point I was like, yeah, I'm going to try to collect all of these. And so I did. Well, all of them except for I think the more newer one. I didn't collect that one. The female pinhead one. Then we have Hellraiser Deadlier. Or Deader. My bad. And then we have Hellraiser Hellworld. Surprisingly, I actually liked Hellworld. I really did. All right. Let's get the rest of these. All right. So we have a 3-pack here. We have one movie that I've never gone on and seen, and then we have the Planet Terror, and we have Death Proof, the Grindhouse movies. So the very first movie, Hell Ride, must be some kind of Grindhouse movie or something. I've never seen the first one, but I saw the other two because eventually I found out that Quentin was kind of doing some Grindhouse movies. I'm like, okay, let's see what these are about, and they didn't disappoint. I liked them, so yeah, did like those movies. Here comes the boom. We have a guy who's Kevin James, I believe. He goes on to be fighting for MMA to try and fund his school. Henry Winkler's character is to kind of be losing funds for his band class. So Kevin's character goes on and tries to do these UFC fights, hoping to get the funding back. Eventually, there's a UFC fight that is to be at the end of the film. And so bit of interesting bit of movie nonetheless. This is a fun movie, an enjoyable film, and I kind of like those movies where they have to do the whole montaging thing. It's good. It's chicken babies. Highlander. This is the director's cut. The director's cut of Highlander. I absolutely love Highlander. I had gone on to see also the TV series. I saw every single one of the movies, even the later ones, which were like The Source and all those kinds of other things. After Endgame, I saw all of the movies. So I think maybe once that reboot happens, that Henry Cavill Highlander, people will probably care about Highlander again. But until that day comes, maybe I should soon start to do the uh, the reviews of these Highlander things because eventually, once that Henry Cavill thing happens, and then people care about Highlander again, then maybe there'll be a reason that I had did all those videos. Or maybe no one will give a shit about them because eventually, maybe the Henry Cavill Highlander, no one will care about that movie either and won't do well. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. Highlander 2 Renegade version. So there's definitely a reason to have collected these certain versions of these movies because they're very different variations. Supposedly in the sequels we would come to find that like the Highlander characters are from a different planet and originally like that was not from the first movie to the sequels. That's not what it was supposed to meant to be. And so the person who did the first one hated the people that did the second one because they kind of kept that weird alien thing in. So it is what it is. Highlander, the final dimension. Uh, I would go on and be really tempted to check out this last one because of the strange ability that the villain of the movie had in that film. Where I think the villain had some kind of like shape shifting power or something like that in that film. But I don't think anyone's gonna really. Really? Then we have Endgame. This brings in the both movie and show uh, versions of Highlander. We also had the movie Highlander on the show, and they connected the characters, which was kind of nice. Basically saying that they were family, and so that was nice. Will Smith's Hitch. This to be a guy who goes on and tries to motivate guys to get women, and then eventually he ends up finding out that he's going to get a woman himself, and then he uh, ends up being horribly bad at trying to win over this woman for some odd reason. He doesn't understand why, but he's just bad at it. So that is to be an interesting just dating film that I also took from this just maybe possible advice. And also I found out that like David Wygant was involved in this movie, and eventually I found out that uh, he was to be a guy who's a motivational speaker on YouTube, and I found out a number of things just about that guy. So let's wrap up this because it seems that my battery is running low. So the hit list. This is surprisingly an interesting film where Cuba's character ends up telling a guy to write a list of people that he wants killed, and this guy will do this for him. And so this guy starts writing off this whole list, and Cuba does go on to find all these people and start killing them. And the the guy opposite of Cuba just thought it was a joke. He didn't think that he was being real with them. And then these people all start dying, and he's like, "Oh, like this guy was being for real for me with me." So by the end of it, like the good guy in this story, he tries to stop Cuba, and we'll see if that happens. For those of you that haven't seen this movie, I would recommend people checking out the hit list. This is actually surprisingly a good movie. I did like it. So I would recommend people seeking it out. Now we have Hitman. Both Hitmans, Hitman and Hitman Agent 47. It doesn't really feel that there is a sequel thing going on with Agent 47, even though it's a second movie that came later. I liked both of these. I think that they were really good. I liked the game. I played quite a bit of the game. And then when I watch these movies, I'm like, okay, like I can enjoy these movies, and I can enjoy the games also. I think at one point I had reviewed this Hitman movie. I don't think I've ever reviewed Agent 47 because I found that it wasn't trending on YouTube, so I never reviewed it. So if these things were to go on and be popular on YouTube, I would go on and review them somewhere down the road. More than likely, upon this tag of this video, I probably will go on and hope to find that there's going to be a number of things popular that eventually I will justify doing a review on later down the road. But until that time happens, I will say I have all this collection here. I'll show off eventually a lot more. So I'm going to get the heck out of here, hopefully, to be able to tag all these. I wish I would not have made this video so long, but oh well, it is what it is. So goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.